So let's have a look at pigeon, of course. And I think the most common way to come into pigeon is to come through downward facing dog. There's other times that I do it from other hip openers, and we can look at that when we get to them, but let's just start by practicing that way. Inhale, bring the left leg up into the air behind you, and exhale, bring your left knee to your left wrist on the mat. Heel, wiggle the foot back, the right foot back, come onto the knee, untuck the toes. Double check that the ankle is straight. Look over your right shoulder, make sure your leg is long and that the ankle is not sickling. Okay, make sure that you're in the center of your pelvis. You're not leaning over to one side or the other. And some people might be quite tight here, so they like to put a block to just add a little bit of support so that the body doesn't go into protection mode. You have many options here. You can stay right here just like this, or you can bend into the elbows or all the way down onto the belly. And as mentioned, you can come into king pigeon or mermaid pose. So I'll better demonstrate that on the other side. And here's a fun way to transition in pigeon. Just lean onto the left hip, bring the right hip forward, and the left leg back. Plant the palms, bring the right knee to the right wrist, and bring the left leg long behind you. So here, mermaid, any type of mermaid variation is when the foot is in the elbow pit. So bend the knee and then reach back. Reach back with the hand and bring the foot into the elbow. So this is mermaid, and then you bring the other arm up, or you can come into king, which is both arms up. That's not quite accessible to me. So the way that I would do that, strap, and then start walking the hands down the strap. Release, and come out, lean onto the right hip, bring the left foot forward. So there's lots of variations for pigeon, and one thing that I see lots of teachers teach in class is that if pigeon isn't quite accessible because the hips are very, very tight, to come into square pose or figure of four pose. So figure four pose is its own pose. I think if everybody's on their front in pigeon, that the alternative should not be you completely different than all the other people in class. So try this. Try 90-90 pose. This is a closer option to the actual pigeon, and you can have any variation just depending on where you are in your practice. So I know that the cue is to be in center, but for some people it doesn't work. So why would they then go onto their back and be in figure of four when you could just literally find a variation that's opening up the outer hip and stretching out the hip flexors? So I'm just throwing that out there. And some people, if you're doing this and you're going to a class, a teacher might come and tell you, like, don't do that. And you can just say, like, this works for me. Because we've been taught, again, aesthetic as opposed to functional. And within functional, moving into figure of four pose, it opens up the one hip, but it doesn't stretch the hip flexor in any way. It's not the same pose. It's not even close to the same pose, where this is close to the same pose. So, and do what you will. Just throwing that out there.